Thanks everybody. And we're not going to talk about my passion so much. I'm more interested in yours. But certainly the Regen Ag, breathe new life into your soil, clearly a timely topic. Those of you who were here for Charlie's presentation, we support virtually all of that. So a lot of good stuff that he was sharing with everybody, right? So Regen Ag, if you take a look at it, yes, lots of definitions. Here's a quick one up here, but really if you're taking a look at those bold words up there, the most important one is life, right? It's all about putting life into your soil, create a living ecosystem. That's really what this is all about for us. It's about working with nature, not working against it, right? For too long in many agricultural systems, we've been working against nature, not intentionally, it's just been the way it's been. This is about working with nature. Right now, this is World Ag Expo, right? So we know we've got a world audience here. Globally, about 15% of all farmland is engaged in Regen Ag systems. So there is a long way to go, and there's a lot of knowledge that's being shared these days. Interesting point here. If we were to leave this up to nature, and keep in mind, as humans, we've only been on the map here for a blip in time, but 500 years is not much to Mother Nature or clearly to God, but it is to us, right? And for nature to form 1 inch of topsoil, it takes about 500 years, right? So, you can't even fathom multi-generation farms with that. If you left it up there to Mother Nature to do that on her time. However, we are seeing agricultural systems that are increasing organic matter by about 1% in 5 to 7 years. The gentleman to my left here is going to talk to you specifically about how he's doing that. But as you can see, there are ways that we can kind of move this forward and a lot faster. One of the big misnomers about Regen Ag is it takes too long and it's too expensive. That's not necessarily the case. A number shared by Charlie earlier. We've got a different number here. This was USDA data, but once again, very striking fact, right? Every 1% increase in organic matter results, according to USDA, 25,000 gallons of water availability per acre. Clearly here in California, we know what that means to you out here west, but pretty much anywhere. It's really a big deal. So how do we get there? I'm going to talk a little bit about the what's, and then Wyatt's going to talk about the hows and put some action items in place. So when you leave here today, you should have some action items on how to incorporate some of this stuff on your farm or with your customers, depending on what you do for a living. So really, we got the 4 basic principles we're going to talk about. Tillage, not necessarily all no-till, but with tillage. Crop rotation, of course. Cover crops. And then high-efficiency fertilizers, or enhanced efficiency fertilizers, as the name goes. So I just want to give you some example metaphors here, right? So how many of you remember you're growing up as a kid, it's a chilly day like today, and your mother has a stew, or she has a roast, or a chili, right? She's got in a crock pot, okay? If you're like me and you went over there and you opened that lid of that crock pot, you'd probably get smacked upside your head, right? And why is that? Because she wants those juices in there, right? You want that fermentation, if you will, in there. The same principle applies with your soil, right? So every time you till up and you move that soil, you're at risk at really disrupting what Mother Nature is doing. Now, we are not here to say never till, right? We understand there are situations why farmers use tillage. Gentleman here to the left will certainly recommend that in certain cases. We know there's strip till, there's vertical tillage opportunities, right? So we know there's reasons why to do that. But I think one thing to take a look at is you're evaluating your farming operation. And we know that it's funny, one of the misnomers that a lot of ag marketers and a lot of ag companies that try to sell you products, they focus on their product and what their product can do. And then that's fine. But as farmers, we know that farmers look at their entire enterprise, right? What will a specific product or practice do for their enterprise? The same thing holds here with soil microbiomes, right? So as you're looking at incorporating practices, be thinking about that's going to affect my microbiome in some way. Now, in some cases, you need to analyze that and you can live with what's going to happen. Tillage is one of those ways. So once again, I want to be clear, we're not anti-tillage, but certainly we want you to be aware of what happens when you do till, right? It's that crock pot lid. All right, crop rotation. We talked about putting life into the soil. These root exudes. It's funny because a lot of people naturally think of roots as a one-way road, right? A one-way sign. We know that's not the case, right? It's a two-way. I know with our company, in Huma, we're studying how humates can certainly impact root exudes and the type of diversity it can build in the soil. We certainly can talk about that later. Not about to talk about that right now, but that's certainly something that we're taking a look at. Companies are doing this, but the reality of it is these roots that decay, these root hairs that decay, this residue that decays as well, they really form the glue, if you will, right? So when you think about crop rotation, think about you're forming glue for those soil particles that binds them together in the soil, right? And that's a huge advantage as you move forward. Cover crops, certainly, take a look at and no-till and those practices together, they can really form a blanket, right? So whether you're not tilling your soil, whether you're putting cover crops on, we pretty much consider that to be a blanket that's going to keep protection throughout the entire system. And then we talk about efficiency fertilizers out there. It really comes down to making sure you get what you pay for, right? The more efficient you can deliver nutrients, the better timing, the 4 R's, right? You're going to get what you pay for. And I know when you talk to farmers, that's probably their number one complaint, no matter where they're farming, is I want to get what I pay for. And that's where these enhanced fertilizers do that. And then as you're evaluating various products, take a look at how your product is made, right? Where it comes from, what are the origins, right? Is this carbon-based or is it salt-based? And if you take a look at the scorecard there, and we're going to have this presentation for you guys to be able to download with a code here shortly, but feel free to take pictures and talk to us later. But this whole carbon-based movement, and yeah, I'll speak selfishly here, humates, humic acid type products, right? They're carbon-based. And so what do you get when you use these type of products? Well, it will definitely stimulate, it'll improve microbial activity out there, right? Do salt-based products do that? Well, when you heard Charlie talk, he's like, no, not really. It kind of does the opposite, right? So that's something to take a look at. We increase the efficiency, the effectiveness. So a lot of reasons to go with more of the carbon-based route versus the salt-based route. So now I want to kind of turn it over to Josh Bowman. Those of you who are big in the regen ag space, you probably know of a guy named Ray Archuleta. Ray was so big that they actually made a movie about him, Kiss the Ground. So I heard Ray speak about a year ago, and somebody asked him, Ray, you've been a pioneer in this, who do you see passing the baton to? Who do you see are these influencers out there? And he said, there's a young man in New Mexico named Josh Bowman, and he is doing amazing things. Anybody who is considering regen ag needs to talk to him. So we're going to show a quick clip here on Josh and what he's doing. Certainly Wyatt works closely with him, and he's going to talk about the specifics. But the analogy I use is, Josh Bowman goes down to New Mexico into a desert, and in my opinion has turned it into a Garden of Eden. Wyatt certainly has been a big part of that. So let's hear kind of how Josh has done that.
So my name is Josh Bowman. I'm a pecan grower in the Southwest United States, southern New Mexico. And we have farmed pecans there since 2016. And prior to that, spent 9 years in the Pacific Northwest farming fruit, tree fruit, apples, cherries in a very similar environment under irrigated conditions. And so for the past 18 or so years, I have been vested in regenerative agriculture, you might say high value crops. So as we began farming pecans here about 9 years ago, we realized that our job as farmers is to improve soil health. And unless we start with the soil, how can we expect to produce greater fruit, greater yields, greater quality? And so we began that journey specifically in New Mexico with growing cover crops, harvesting the sunlight, which is a wonderful input. It's free. And also regenerating the soil by implementing livestock into that system. So we have been grazing now sheep and cattle underneath our trees, grazing down cover crops, which has reduced our tractor footprint, you might say, and our consumption of diesel and burning fuel. And so we have sort of shifted that over to the live animal side. So all of this said, what have we seen? What's happening? I would say the first thing is soil health increases by the year. And as we grow carbon biomass and we incorporate that back into the soil, a lot of no-tilling methods, but we've got animals out there that are digesting, putting the residues back down on the ground. Our goal is to create a forest environment underneath our trees. What this means is we want to see bacteria and fungi increasing. We want to see organic matter levels increasing. And all of that equates to more moisture, water holding capacity, more nutrient holding capacity. So our soils range from sand to clay, just like yours. And what is so interesting is that some of the quickest changing soils are sandy soils that do not hold nutrients. And so our job is to build topsoil that our tree roots can thrive in and hold more nutrients, more moisture. The result of this over the past 7 seasons has been a 75% increase in average yield. We're still real humans. We've got real challenges, but it's been fun taking something, improving the soil, which is the foundation for all of life on this planet, and seeing a net result on the other side. We are excited to continue this journey by implementing practices every year. There's new challenges, but our job is to be based on principles that work, and that is taking desert soils, turning them into highly productive farmland. And so that's really summarizes the journey we've been on, and we're still on, and we're excited to be a part of this movement of regenerative agriculture.
So that's Josh. My name is Wyatt, and I'm kind of a one-on-one guy. So I'm going to do something right now that you may not have done, but on the count of 3, I'd like to meet you. If you could just say your name. 1, 2, 3. Good to meet you. I'm glad you're here. And I assume that since you're here, you're interested in regenerative agriculture. The goal of this talk, I would like to be, is to learn something from you. So after we're done, if you have something, I'd like to meet you and talk about it. We just simply want to share what we've found, and I hope that it can be a benefit to you. So we do live in southern New Mexico. Rio Grow is a consulting and ag sales firm where we go out and we help people with soil health products that they need. And the crops that we deal with the most are chili peppers, pecans, alfalfa, onions, and then there's a myriad of other smaller crops too. So that's kind of what we grow in. You know, in our business, we always are searching for the silver bullet, and I think we've actually found it. I found this the other day. But no, in all reality, there is no silver bullet, and we know that. It's really just working with the principles that we are understanding and learning how to leverage those to our ability to impact something good on our farm. So what I want to do is just kind of break this down. If I'm interested in regen ag, all this deep stuff, how do we actually do, what are the things that we can do to take a step forward in that? Step 1, step 2, and step 3. Maybe you find yourself at the baby step, next step, final step. We're going to just kind of take a real quick bullet point, high level view at it. So the first practice that I think would be very easy and where we start with a lot of people is simply just reducing the fertilizer input a little bit and adding carbon with it. And what this does is basically it makes your fertilizer more efficient and you feed microbes while you do it. Very good way to start. And there's a lot of products, certainly humate products, different forms of that, and then also soluble carbon products like molasses, kelps, things like that can really boost your efficiency of fertilizer that you put out in the field. And that's where we start a lot of times. Another great tool to start is foliars and sap testing. And what that is basically that's letting the plant tell us, okay, what do I need to do? Maybe I've got all my bases covered except one or two things here. Let's go out and apply a foliar. And by sap testing, we can oftentimes see a broad spectrum of where we need to improve, and we can go out and apply that. What that does then is that allows the plant to come up to a new energy level where it can put out those root exudates we were talking about, and then boom, you a lot of times can establish a plant microbe connection. So this is just an example of this in chili peppers where we did this. Simple carbons and just the grower's standard 32 and peak acid. And we saw a tremendous change in the way that plant responded. All we did was really fed the microbes with a simple carbon source. The next practice that I really like to kind of step up your game would be cover crops. And of course, we've already heard this in the past hour, but I love cover crops because what better way is there to get carbon into your soil? This gentleman here seems to have an answer for that, but I have not found a different way. And the reason why is because sunshine is free and CO2 is free. All we got to make sure is we have the nutrients in the water for it. Tremendous tool. And the way we think about it in New Mexico is we have 300 days of sunshine. Let's utilize it. Let's harvest that. So a couple examples of that, and biologicals too. I'm going to have to scream through these. A lot of stuff we can't cover. But a great place to start is in our orchards. Most of the year it's just laying bare. Can we harvest that sunlight? And can we start boosting the life in the soil? And the answer is yes, we can do that. This is in row crops. We do quite a bit of cover crops and row crops. And these two fields, I'm going to show you the next slide. So the one on the left is a watermelon field prior, and the one on the right is going to be a chili field. So this is what it looked like. And then this is the result, the final result. The chili field will be there in the middle, that dark brown residue. And then you can see the watermelon field. The chili field is on the left, and then the watermelon field's on the right. That's only about 3 months later. And we had an extremely good crop with both of them. I was in the field and digging. You see soil aggregation, no disease pressure in the chili. Just tremendous way to build the life up, and we can find ways to manage that residue and do good things with that. Drought tolerance, this is something big that obviously we deal with in New Mexico and throughout the West. But we find that the coverage on our cover crops, the residue, and then that's a sorghum crop there that hasn't been watered for about 2.5 months. We find that we can really improve water retention with these tactics. Keep going here. Biologicals, this is obviously just some root sheaths that are on a cover crop that we treated with biologicals. Tremendous growth there. Rhizoctonia, we've been doing trials with different biologicals to see what the suppression is, and we see this in the field as well. Using a very balanced biological and feeding it properly can do tremendous work. Don't buy water. I advise every one of you that's interested in this to get a microscope and look at every single biological product and tea you have. It will open your eyes. You will be amazed at what there is and isn't in things. And the last step going forward, and again, we're just kind of hitting the high points here, but would be the more advanced practices of integrating livestock and reducing your inputs and tillage. This takes a lot of work. Many times livestock may or may not take work. This is what we've done on our farm, pecan farm, and it's really sped up the carbon sequestration and soil health of our soil. These are our cows here. These are what we call our nutrient recyclers. So basically all the nutrients that are in that cover crop get put back into the soil very efficiently with the herd. This is our sheep, and the goats are no longer. They were a problem. But we graze densely, about 2 acres a day, depending on the forage load. And that's you need to manage your grazing well if you want to have the best impact. We just see life exploding after the herd. Tremendous potential there. We see it all the time. Another thing you can do is intercropping. This is out one of our larger growers with a lot of wind, and we find ways to deal with that. And we're also feeding soil microbes there. There's a lot of things we haven't covered here, but hopefully this gives you an idea of some places to start and maybe stimulate ideas of your own. So with that, I think if you scan the QR code, we can get your information. If you want a copy of this presentation, feel free to do that, and we'll get your contact. And we would love to send it to you. We'd also love to connect with you too if you have further questions or discussion points, and that's where we can learn from you. So thank you very much.